Welcome back to the Art and Skill of Coaching, where I teach you how to coach. So a lot of coaches will prematurely jump right into problem solving. A client hops on the call and says, I want to be more confident, or I need to stop procrastinating, or I want a better work-life balance. And the coach gets to work. But here's the issue with that. The presenting problem rarely exists in isolation. What do I mean by that? Well, if you don't take the time to assess the full picture of your client's life, you risk coaching in a vacuum, only focusing on one issue or the symptoms instead of the systems. So today we're going to be talking about an old school coaching technique, like from the 60s, y'all, that helps you do just that. And it's the Wheel of Life. And I really like this tool because it's so simple, it's so straightforward, and it doesn't matter what niche or presenting problem you're coaching on, because when used correctly, it gives you and your client not just a snapshot, but really a full picture of what's actually happening and where meaningful change needs to start, regardless of their desired result. Because here's what I've often noticed in coaching. A client will come in with a clear goal, right? Like, I want to grow my business. I want help with my anxiety. I want to feel happier in my relationship. And on the very first session, the coach will dive right in. But without full understanding of other areas of the client's life, their health, finances, emotional well-being, relationships, environment, etc., the work becomes potentially surface level and potentially unbalanced. And I think that happens because a lot of clients have psychological blind spots. Like, we can't read the label from inside the jar. Even I have a coach and therapist, because what I think is my problem and how I try to solve the problem doesn't actually work sometimes, because again, I have psychological blind spots. And it's important to help the client really look at the entire picture and see that there's different areas of their life and that they do influence each other. And it's really important to identify, or at least clarify, if there's any relationship between their presenting concern, their desired result, and another domain of their life. But when you skip the assessment, sometimes you miss the deeper interconnected cause of what's really going on. And that's why the Wheel of Life and other assessment tools like it are so powerful. It helps both you and the client see the entire system. Now, what I've noticed from training coaches and being in this space for over a decade is that a lot of coaches don't take the time to actually do a thorough assessment. And I think there's a couple reasons. Maybe they think it's too basic. Maybe they assume they know what's going on based on their work with that type of clientele or the client's complaints. Maybe they mistake the client's urgency for awareness and motivation and readiness. Like, there's a lot of reasons why I think thorough assessment isn't happening in the coaching industry, but effective and valuable coaching does require data. And without data, you're guessing. And when you're guessing, you risk helping the client optimize the wrong area of their life, or just end up frustrated when they're not getting sustainable progress because we didn't look at it holistically. That's why the Wheel of Life is a great assessment tool. And I also just love how visual it is, right? It can actually help clients evaluate very clearly, very tangibly, and track satisfaction and balance across key domains in their life, not just their problem areas. And if you've been in the coaching space or just personal development for a while, or self-help, you've probably heard of it because it's been used for decades in coaching, therapy, and organizational development. And while its exact origins are unknown, again, the framework is from the 60s. It is old, but it is still relevant. And it really developed from humanistic psychology, particularly from work on like self-actualization and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because basically what's happening here is when a client can see their life represented visually, it activates something called metacognition. And metacognition is basically the ability to observe and reflect on our own thoughts, our own behaviors. And what that does is that shift from living inside the problem to actually observing the systems, it's going to increase self-awareness and motivation to change. Okay, so quick story before I dive into how to use the wheel. I recently just had a $3,000 car repair, and basically what ended up happening was my Jeep Wrangler started to shake a little bit a few weeks ago. And if you know anything about Jeeps, there's a little bit of wobble in general. It's not the smoothest ride, but this was something that I actually noticed, and it was a little concerning, but I didn't have the time to address it. I had a lot of travel coming up, and it wasn't too bad, so I just kind of ignored it and eventually got used to it. And it wasn't until I had a really long car ride recently on the highway that I noticed how bad it had gotten over time, and I actually felt uncomfortable and unsafe driving it. So as soon as I got to my destination, I found a Jeep dealership and I took my car into the shop, and I ended up getting a $3,000 bill in repairs. Why? What they told me was what initially just started out as uneven tread on just my front tires, continuing to drive on it and it getting worse over time, ended up wreaking havoc on some other systems in the front of my Jeep that resulted in major repairs. That kicker could have been avoided if I just rotated my tires or got new ones when I first noticed the uneven tread. And the reason I share this story is because one, it made me think about how important it is to actually respond when you have a choice and when you first notice things versus waiting till there's an actual crisis. But two, I knew I was going to record this podcast and it reminded me how important balance actually is. And what's crazy is they actually showed me my old tires after the repair was done. And on the front tires, some portions of the wheel had like 2 inches of tread and then other portions were bald and had none at all. And it literally was causing the car to bounce because it wasn't even enough to drive smoothly. And that's really what the metaphor is for this assessment tool. So let's talk about how to use it in coaching. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. There's 5 easy ones. So step 1 is you want to choose your categories. So usually I like to work with about 8, but you can actually work with your client to identify what are 6 to 10 key or essential areas of their life that matter most to them. And I usually will encourage them to consider areas like their career, relationships, health, finances, their personal growth, their recreation or fun, their environment, their spirituality, etc. But you always do want to check with your client what's actually important to them and what they want in their wheel of life versus imposing your own, okay? It should really reflect their reality. Then step 2 is you want to do a quick self-assessment. And basically what this means is you want to ask the client to rate their level of satisfaction, aka their fulfillment or pleasure in each area. I like to use a scale from 1 to 10. It's super easy. 1, low satisfaction, 10, high satisfaction. And I encourage them to really be honest. Like, this is just data. There's no judgment. And what's really interesting when I have clients do this, because I've been using this activity for years, is that a lot of clients never actually pause to evaluate all these areas of their life, especially my high achievers who tend to hyper fixate on only like 2 to 3 domains like career, finances, and health. But it's really important to pause and consider all the systems in our life and maybe notice how focusing too much on their family while their relationship with their partner slips away or their friendships fade. Or another example could be while prioritizing your finances over your health results in a robust bank account but an aching body. This is really great awareness. And then step 3, you want to actually visualize the wheel. So there are a lot of worksheets that are free online that you can utilize, and it's great. You can share your screen, you could email it to a client, they can fill it in. I've actually included one of my favorites in the show notes for you. So there's a link to an actual wheel of life that's fillable and an article explaining how to use it. So definitely check that out. But basically, if you're just doing it on the spot, it's super simple. You just want to draw a circle and you want to split the circle into pie pieces, almost as if you're kind of cutting a pizza. And each slice is going to represent a domain. Then you want to have the client rate each section from 1 to 10. So again, 1 being low, 10 being high, and 1 is going to be towards the center of the pie and 10 is going to be towards the edge of the pie. And you want to have them either color it in and or connect the ratings. And what they're going to be able to have a visual representation of is how even or uneven their wheel actually is. And obviously a smooth wheel is going to reflect balance and a jagged one's going to really show them their areas of improvement. But once you have that visualization done, then this is where the coaching is going to kick in. So you actually want to utilize this information and start to ask questions. So maybe some questions could be like, well, what's standing out to you? Start big picture. What areas feel energizing right now? Or which areas feel like they're draining or limiting you or require some attention or that you need support with? What areas are you overperforming and underperforming, and how can we create a little bit more balance there? This is going to help them really identify the potential interconnections of these domains of their life and how one area may be influencing another and what adjustments can be made, which takes me to step 5, where you're going to actually prioritize the coaching with the answers you got from step 4. And this is really going to be determining how you're going to use this information. So what I would encourage you to do, rather than jumping straight to the lowest score and assuming that's the area of focus, really help the client explore which area, if improved, would have the biggest ripple effect across all the domains of their life. And this is going to help you move the work from reactionary to strategic and holistic. And one other thing I'll say really quickly for you as the coach and for your clients is that the goal is not perfection. The goal is not to have a perfect wheel and all 10s and equal balance. That is a myth. It's more so about equilibrium, just like my tires, y'all. Okay, so let me give you a quick case example to really kind of demonstrate this for you. So let's say you have a client and his name's David, and he comes in saying he wants help with performing at work. Maybe currently he's overwhelmed and procrastinating and can't seem to focus and wants some time management tools because he has this promotion coming up and he wants to be prepared, right? So you utilize the wheel of life and you discover that maybe his core domains are career, relationships, health, fun, finances, and growth. And you score it, and his career is like a 6, his relationships are 8, his health is a 3, fun is like a 2, finances are right in the middle at a 5, and growth is a 7. Like he's committed to getting better. But what you notice here is suddenly the picture really changes. I don't know what stuck out to you immediately, but for me, I started to notice, okay, your health and fun are non-existent, but your career and finances and growth are pretty up there. And maybe what that can insinuate is that his low performance at work isn't just about time management or being overworked. It might also potentially be due to him neglecting his health or not attending to other meaningful activities in his life. That could strengthen his motivation or boost his creativity or joy or presence in work. But if he continues to leave these areas unaddressed, like not resting, not exercising, not having any time for joy, he could actually be on the verge of burnout, which would only hurt his professional goals and endeavors. And instead of just creating another to-do list or teaching him productivity tools, which could be helpful, maybe you also help him rebuild his routines for energy and sleep and recreation, which could all positively improve his productivity as well. And this is the power of accurate assessment. And when you start coaching with tools like the Wheel of Life, you're going to help the clients really see their life as a system, not an isolated set of problems. And it's also going to help you build trust faster because you're going to understand them more fully, and your coaching is going to come precise and effective and sustainable and holistic because you're coaching the person, not just the problem. Let me repeat that. If you take anything from today's episode, remember, effective coaching and valuable coaching is coaching the person, not just the problem, coaching the systems, not just the symptoms. This is how you move from solving surface issues to facilitating transformation. And if you want to learn more psychology-based coaching tools like this one, or the science behind some of the things that you're hearing on podcasts, reading in books, seeing online, so that you could be more effective in going deeper with your clients, I definitely encourage you to check out our advanced coach training program, The Art and Skill of Coaching. It's where we actually bring in the science behind great coaching so that you can go beyond the basics and become a professional coach. The link to learn more is in the show notes, and enrollment for our next class is being announced soon. So definitely stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, please share and leave us a review. Make sure to give us 5 stars and hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another training to help you master the art and skill of coaching.